Welcome to LSB Feaster's radio channel and travel corner, where our mission in life is keeping great radio from the past alive. Today we're going to Chicago and the Big 89 WLS. It was probably the most popular radio station in the Midwest back in the 60s, 70s, into the 80s. It was ABC's powerhouse top 40 station. And the DJs that worked at this station were legendary. Larry Lujack, Tommy Edwards, Bob Sirott, Fred Winston, who else? Joel Sebastian, Chuck Napp, Art Roberts, Dick Biondi, John Records Landecker, Chuck Buell. I mean, I could literally go on and on. They were that good. This Aircheck features one of the very few female and African-American jocks at WLS. I'm talking about the legendary Yvonne Daniels. Yvonne came to WLS back in 1973, and she was the first female air personality that was ever on WLS. Now, Yvonne worked at several stations, including WYNR, WCFL during its jazz days, and WSDM-FM before getting the call to go to WLS. On the air, Yvonne was great. She was tight, she was brief, she was lively, and she could compete with the big boys on WLS. And what was cool about her shift was she was on in the middle of the night, so she could be heard across much of the country doing that overnight shift. She was at WLS for 8 years before moving down the dial to WVON, which became WGCI, and later she went on to WNUA. Sadly, Yvonne passed on back in 1991 at age 54. So young. If you like this air check, thank you so much. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel too if you like. And after you do, smack that bell. And you will be notified whenever we post anything new. All right, let's go back to the 1970s now with Yvonne Daniels on the Big 89 WLS Chicago.
This is Laurel Ornish, WLS News. Police Superintendent Rochford has taken action against the Chicago police officer accused of overreacting in the shooting death of a burglary suspect. The move comes after the young man's father threatened legal action against Patrolman Philip Onesto. More from WLS newsman Bill Guthrie.
Superintendent Rochford has not only suspended Onesto, he says he will recommend to the police board that Onesto be dismissed from the force. John Newman was arrested on June the 10th for allegedly trying to steal a motorcycle from a garage. He was handcuffed, but he tried to escape by running down an alley. Onesto said he chased Newman, then fired. But Rochford criticized Onesto's use of deadly force. The superintendent contends that such force should not be used until all other reasonable alternatives have been exhausted. Rochford says the reports he has seen indicate that that was not the case in young Newman's death. Bill Guthrie, WLS News.
U.S. Attorney Sam Skinner has announced 9 federal indictments against Chicagoans accused of conducting fictitious transactions at the Board of Trade and the Mercantile Exchange. The scheme involved finding out in advance how much profit or loss there would be in a deal before the deal was carried out. Thus, the brokers knew ahead of time how to carry out a transaction, resulting in either huge profits or huge tax benefits if there were losses. In announcing the indictments, Skinner explained who would benefit from the indictments.
In the long run, the beneficiaries of this effort will be, number one, the American taxpayer, who has, of course, been defrauded if there's any tax fraud involved. And number two will be the individual consumer, who through individual companies hedge, through individual companies who buy grains and commodities, and who, of course, are known as hedgers on the exchange. It is important that they have confidence in the market.
Skinner put part of the blame for the fraudulent activity on the Board of Trade itself.
They were not doing as much as probably they should have. They were the first people to recognize that, and they are taking steps to correct that.
What are they doing?
Well, they've increased their enforcement efforts. They have established, I understand, new organizations, and they're spending a lot more time on dealing with these problems.
Skinner says the indictments are the first phase of a federal crackdown on such practices. Still no progress in getting the RTA gasoline tax question settled. WLS newswoman Linda Marshall reports on Friday's back-and-forth RTA meeting.
A second meeting of a special RTA committee to hopefully end the deadlock over the proposed 5% gas tax produced no concrete results. The only flicker of hope was a promise from Chicago board member Nicholas Bozen to come up with a compromise proposal on allocation of RTA funds by Monday. Till that happens, suburban board members insist there will be no agreement on the gas tax or the entire RTA budget, which by law must be approved by June 30th. This is Linda Marshall.
This may give you a bit of a pick-me-up in the morning. The country of Colombia has announced they are going to cut the price of their coffee exports by 10%. Prices in New York City already have gone down on the shelves. As to whether they might go down here in the Chicago area, Jewel food store spokesman Michael Hatt told WLS News.
These are good indications, however, they're not trends yet. I would hope that in the near future, we might be able to see some stabilizing of prices. We have been going through 6 to 7 months of price increases, and maybe in the near future we will see some stabilizing of prices. These are good indications, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Hatt says they're actually selling their coffee on the shelves below the current wholesale price. Ed Sidlowski, who lost the presidency of the United Steelworkers, has asked the Labor Department to look into that election. Sidlowski, the maverick mine worker from Chicago, says the election should be overturned because McBride illegally received contributions and other favors from the union's employees and officers, both before and during the balloting. Sidlowski also charges ballot box stuffing and other improper procedures at the more than 5,000 polling places on Election Day. There's good news for all you Star Trek fans. The sci-fi TV series, which went off the air 8 years ago, will be on again for the 1978 season. A spokesman for Paramount Television says the show will be renewed in response to the clamor of so-called Trekkies who have lobbied for the show's reincarnation since it lost contact with prime time. The runaway success of the movie Star Wars didn't hurt either. It's not known whether any of the original cast members will be in on the 1978 version of the show. Speaking of sci-fi, one-time Harvard professor and LSD advocate Timothy Leary now says space travel is the ultimate trip. Leary contends the future of human beings lies in colonizing outer space. WLS Sports, Friday night's game between the White Sox and the Oakland A's at Comiskey Park called off on account of rain. No score at the time. That game has been rescheduled for September 19th. The Cubs, meanwhile, on the West Coast, won again against the LA Dodgers, this time 7-3. Manny Trio, the National League's leading hitter, tripled in 2 runs to aid in the win. All 4 teams scheduled to meet again today. At the U.S. Open in Tulsa, Hubie Green has a 1-stroke lead over Terry Deal. Defending champ Jerry Pate, incidentally, failed to meet the cut. And Tom Seaver will be making his pitching debut with the Cincinnati Reds today against Montreal. WLS weather, showers continuing this morning, partly cloudy and cooler later today with more rain. Sunny and warm on Sunday, winds up to 20 miles an hour. The current WLS temperature is 71 degrees. This is Laurel Ornish.
WLS reminds you, if your nonprofit group would like to have an upcoming event announced, send your public service message at least 2 weeks in advance to Joe Jamerson, WLS Radio, 360 North Michigan Avenue, Chicago, 60601. WLS, getting it said for Chicago. WLS, where the spirit of summer means Chicago. It's your chance to win exclusive Chicago concert tickets. Plus the Chicago album of your choice all weekend long. The spirit of summer, WLS Chicago.
The name of your favorite radio station, say WLS. You could live happily ever after in a $50,000 home. Bay City Rollers. Music Radio WLS. 402, it's Andy Gold and Lonely Boy at WLS. He won't be a lonely boy this summer. He'll be traveling with the Eagles on tour. 71 degrees right now in Chicago. High later today, 83, but a chance of more rain. Chicago. WLS with Yvonne Daniels later in the hour, giving away Chicago tickets and albums. Listen for the touchtone. Come on into HFC.
For nearly 100 years, HFC has tried to bring you the best service possible. And if there's ever any way we can improve ourselves, just let us know. HFC, an equal opportunity lender.
So come on in, come on
use our money to get the most out of life.
Come on into HFC.
Somewhere in Chevy City, drive away your blues. If you just follow the rainbow, you'll find cars that are new or used. Follow the yellow brick road to the magic land of Fensel Tufo.
WLS.
The groundswell of admiration for 10cc keeps growing and growing. It's a reputation based on simple ingredients, really. Innovative arrangements, together singing, inspired playing, and superb songs.
The things we do for love. The things we do for love.
Now with the emergence of their new album, 10cc's reputation is about to reach its pinnacle.
People in love do funny things. Walk under buses, burn their wings.
10cc's Deceptive Bends on Mercury Records and Tapes. Pick it up and listen to the reasons for the groundswell.
10cc available at all Chicagoland Turnstile stores.
WLS.
Several requests for this one. At 8 minutes after 4 o'clock, it's Alan O'Day. Undercover Angel. WLS.